What if I told you that decluttering like you're about to retire, even if you're nowhere near retirement age, could completely transform how you live right now? Hi, I'm Robyn. I'm a retired nurse and I run Minimalist Home, and I help women over 40 get out of survival mode by simplifying their homes and creating routines so that they have more energy. Now, my last child, my baby, is graduating next year, and it has hit me that we are entering the stage of the last this and this and this. So I am sad about that chapter ending. Very sad, but I'm also recognizing there are some incredible freedoms coming, and I want to accept this reality and also celebrate it. But please tell me I will be okay, right? Anyway, that got me thinking, what if we approach decluttering not from a place of loss or limitation, but from a place of liberation? What if we decluttered like we're about to step into the best phase of our lives? So whether you're 45, 55, or 65, there comes a moment when you realize you've been living for someone else's needs, and now you get to dream for your own dreams. This isn't about preparing for decline, obviously. This is about preparing for your second act. Okay, I got some tea, so I don't wave my hands around so much, but it's so hot that it's hard to hold. Anyway, let's start with something that might be a little strange to talk about, but quite often people, right before they retire, they've kind of reached their peak earnings. So you may or may not, but have a little bit more money at this stage. And stay tuned if you don't, because there's lots of things for you here. But if you've reached your peak wage, plus you're not paying for kids anymore, you might want to ask yourself why you are spending any extra cash on storing junk, storing things you don't use. Even if it's not junk, but it's in boxes, you're paying to keep it. Think about that. Maybe you have a storage unit payment that could fund pottery classes, or your extra bedrooms filled with just in case furniture could be your art studio, your home gym, or your Pilates space. You've worked hard to afford experiences, so why are you paying to manage your stuff instead? And also think about it this way. You didn't work for 30 years just to become a warehouse manager to your own belongings, even if you were a warehouse manager before. So here's what I want you to calculate. How much are you spending annually on storing, maintaining, and housing things you don't actually use? So even if you don't pay for a storage unit, it's hot, so I put it down. Now I'm using both hands. Anyway, even if you don't pay for a storage unit, think about what you're paying on your mortgage or your rent or organizing systems, even in insurance, whatever. All of that is being divided amongst a lot of that extra stuff that you don't love. It's like paying a subscription fee for stress that you don't want, that is not helping your mental health. Now imagine redirecting that money towards something that actually brings you joy, like a wine country weekend or a watercolor class that you've been putting off, the trip to see your college roommate. So if you do have a storage unit and you spend $100, which might be low for some, or more a month on it, imagine wiping that out. Your decorative bowl collection was costing you actual bowls of pasta in Italy. The math doesn't add up. Free yourself. When you're in peak earning years, every dollar spent on stuff you don't use is a dollar not spent on the life you actually want to live. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room that I'm just going to be stumbling upon soon. Or should I say the child's bedroom that has become a repository for your kid's past life. Their entire childhood is still living rent-free in your house. We've become the unpaid curator of the museum of our kids' childhood, complete with participation trophies and the science fair projects about volcanoes. And here's the thing. I mean, I get it. Plus, we've all done this. I let stuff at my parents' house and my grandparents' house. I was doing double time on storage unit. Your kids learned this behavior from somewhere, and that was probably you leaving your college textbooks at your mom's house just in case. But here's what I realized. Keeping their stuff is not keeping them close. It's keeping them stuck in the past and with clutter. And your adult children, they don't need you to be their storage facility. They need you to model what it looks like to live intentionally in the present. I truly believe one of the biggest gifts we can give people is just the freedom of knowing that they don't need stuff for happiness. And when you're holding on to their childhood belongings longer than they do, you're not being sentimental, you are being a storage unit with big feelings who's not letting go and facing reality. Think about it. When was the last time they actually asked for any of that stuff? They've moved on, and maybe it's time for you to as well. Here is the loving approach. Give them a deadline. I have had a lot of people come to me and ask, like, what do I do? My kids. So say, honey, I'm going to redecorate your old bedroom into my craft space. You have until Christmas to come and get what you want, and it needs to fit into 2 boxes. So what I like about this is, and give them like lead time, especially if they don't live nearby. But if they live, like, say, in another province or state or whatever, say like you got 6 months or whatever. If they live in the same town, I would give them a couple of months, because again, people do have to work through things. The beautiful truth in that is they probably don't want most of it anyway, and they're just as overwhelmed by the idea of dealing with it as you are. And I remember my grandparents would be like, oh, here's a box of your stuff, and I would come visit, and my mother-in-law would do the same thing for my husband. So by taking the lead and setting boundaries, you're giving them permission to let go too. Plus, here's the bonus. When you transform their old room into your space, your office, your craft room, your reading nook, or your Pilates studio, you're not erasing their memory. You're creating new memories, and they'll be way more excited to visit your amazing new creative space than they ever would have been to see their dusty childhood bedroom. Your kids want to see you thriving in your next chapter and not preserving their last one. The other thing I want to mention, and this is very common for people in my membership and on my channel, will say to me, I have stuff from my parents and I'm a grandparent or whatever. So think about it this way. If you have things from your parents, so my dad has passed away, and my brother and I both went through his stuff, and we took anything that was sentimental to us and we kept it. A lot of times people will inherit all of their family members' things. They will take it all to their house, and then they're so overwhelmed by that stuff. So if that's you, you already have the stuff. I would set some time to go through that stuff and just take out anything that is meaningful to you, not to them. And then you can let the rest go. Here's something beautiful about this stage of life. You're at the perfect age to create epic memories with your adult kids and your future grandkids. My kids right now are at a very fun age to do things with, and I love it. And I will be happy to have grandkids one day too. So your children will actually treasure the extra time on experiences like big family dinners, even just going out to a restaurant or having them over, or going and playing mini golf with you way more than your extra furniture. They will remember the cooking classes that you took together, and not the china set that lived in your dining room cabinet for 20 years. My suggestion, declutter all of the extra stuff that you don't need or use. And think about your own parents. What do you remember most? The stuff they had or the experiences that they shared with you? In my family, the time spent with extended family, my grandparents, my aunts and everything, the memories I have are not about stuff. They are about doing playing cards or chatting, just hanging out, enjoying meals together. And if you're thinking about grandkids, future or current, they want adventures with you, not inheritance anxiety. We live in such a materialistic world right now, and I feel like the core of the human experience is time with family and friends. And this is such a great time to just be like, I am no longer going to be beholden to things. I want to be the grandparent who took them places, not the one who left them a storage unit to clean out. And trust me, in this line of work and in my own life, people do not want to inherit a bunch of boxes filled with things that don't have tangible meaning. See the part we talked about before. So this is your chance to model something powerful, that life is about experiences and relationships and memories, and not accumulating and managing possessions. Plus, stories about that time grandma got lost while traveling in Montreal are way more entertaining than stories about grandma's decorative spoon collection. And trust me, I've seen the spoons. I love the spoons, but it's time to let the spoons go. Unless you love them and you have them out and you're like, I love my spoons. So this one reminds me of Victoria. The legacy you leave isn't what you owned, it's what you did and where you went and how it made you feel. Have you considered moving? A lot of people do. Let's reframe downsizing completely. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this house is big and it makes me a bit depressed to consider living in it once all of the kids are gone for long. Now, you're not losing space when you choose to move to a smaller spot. You're gaining freedom from stuff that does not serve you. And you can finally have the home that you want and not what the kids needed anymore. No more playroom that is now just a junk room. No more dining room table that seats 12 when you prefer intimate dinners for 4. No more guest bedrooms for guests who do not come. I will always remember a trip to Saskatchewan when I was carefully warned not to step foot in a particular living room. You don't need that fancy living room anymore. Plus, smaller spaces equals less weekend cleaning, which equals more weekend living. You can actually design your actual life. Picture wine tastings, well, tea tastings in my life, book clubs, travel prep, hobbies you have been putting off. For me, I just need to make sure there is a small spot to start my seedlings in the winter and I will be happy. Now, if you aren't moving, you could also redesignate some rooms. My friends turned her old kids' playroom into a craft room and now she actually looks forward to going in there. She builds Lego, it's like a little office, instead of avoiding it like it's a crime scene. I remember those days. I remember trying to match up all of the little toy sets and then like I would go in there and the kids would have like dumped them out and mixed them up again. I was just like, this is about curating your space down to only what you truly love. Every item that stayed has earned its space and that is incredibly powerful. And I'm not saying don't make room because you want people to visit. I really want my family to visit, but we also need to reclaim some of it. If you're like me and you're watching your last child prepare to launch, this transition is bittersweet, but also exciting. Let's embrace both feelings. So you have successfully raised independent humans. That's actually pretty huge. And now you get to be independently human again. Do you remember who you were before you became a mom or a dad? That person is still in there and probably wondering when they get to come out and play again. Plus, I love hanging out with my adult kids. As I said, it is a very special time and your home can finally reflect your interests, not soccer schedules and science fair projects. You can have nice things that won't get destroyed. You can organize spaces around your hobbies instead of homework stations. I can finally have white furniture again. My interior designer would be doing a happy dance. But then I would remember that my husband still lives here, so that probably won't happen. But this isn't about mourning the end of parenting or working. It's about celebrating the beginning of intentional living. So you get to rediscover who you are beyond parent mode or worker mode. And it's like getting to know yourself all over again, except for this time you have better space and a much better credit score. So here's the game changer. You are in your prime travel years. Hopefully healthy, and I know not everybody is at this stage, maybe more financially stable, and finally free from carpools and permission slips. Every unnecessary purchase at this point in time is a missed experience. I mean, it is beforehand, trust me, but the decorative pillow set could be a cooking class in Tuscany, or those extra linens could fund a weekend in the interior of British Columbia. Remember the storage unit payment? You can add it to your adventure budget. Start thinking of every purchase decision through that lens. Is this item worth more for me than the experience that I could have with my family or with friends or whatever? It's like having a personal finance advisor who only speaks in vacation destinations. And even if you're like, I can't travel that much, maybe you do it every couple of years. Maybe you don't like to travel or you can't afford it. That's okay. This isn't about being cheap. It's about being strategic about funding your dreams. You have spent decades investing in other people's future. Now it is time to invest in your own adventures. Now my new motto is, will this spark joy or will a weekend in Napa spark more joy? Napa would usually win. So how do you actually do this? I know a lot of people are like, okay, I get it, but like how? So here are the questions you want to ask yourself. For every item that you are considering keeping, would I pay to move this to my dream retirement home? Does this reflect who I am now or who I used to be? Because a lot of the times we forget that we have changed, and that's okay. In fact, it's good. Would I rather have this or the experience I could fund instead? For every purchase you're considering, ask, am I buying this for my current life or my past life? What experience could I have with this money instead? will this add to or subtract from my freedom? Start with one room that represents your old life, maybe the formal dining room or the kids' old playroom. Clear it out completely and redesign it for your current dreams. And if you're sad about it, take a moment, feel that sadness, but then move on. And I actually might one day turn that kid's bedroom into my reading nook. So instead of stepping on Legos, wouldn't it be fun to step into my favorite novels? Upgrade achieved. You know, I would put on like bookshelves and like have a cozy chair. I wouldn't even need to spend any money. I would just like move stuff I already had around. So good. When you declutter like you're about to retire, you're not just organizing stuff. You are organizing your life around what actually matters to you now. You're creating financial freedom by not paying to store things you don't use. You're creating physical freedom by not maintaining spaces that don't serve you. And you're creating emotional freedom by letting go of the guilt around the items that represent who you used to be. Finally, you're giving yourself permission to live your actual life instead of the life you thought you were supposed to have. It's like second adolescence. And maybe I'll be attending concerts with my kids. I hope so, because we both are at a stage of life where there's a whole lot less responsibility. Now that is leveling up. And most importantly, you're creating time freedom. Less stuff to manage really does mean more time for experiences that you've been putting off. Your second act is waiting for you, and it's going to be amazing. But it requires letting go of the props from your first act to make room for the adventures ahead. You've earned this freedom. You have raised your kids, built your career, and proven that you can handle responsibility. And now it's time to prove that you can handle joy. Clutter can actually be very hazardous for a lot of us. So watch this video here where I get into how to avoid certain situations that can be bad that I learned from my life as an emergency nurse before. I hope something great happens for you today. Please like, subscribe, and hype this video. Stay tidy and mighty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.